Okay, welcome back to another episode of the Amanda Fest podcast, where our mission is simple. It's to inspire and empower you to take aligned action towards your dream life, whatever that looks like for you. We are back with another solo episode where I share with you the crazy happenings of the Amanda life. We took last week off, so I've got a couple weeks to catch you guys up on lessons learned, wisdom gained. But as we've done with every episode, before we dive into this one, we're going to take a moment to ground down. So, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, if it's safe to do so, I invite you to close down your eyes. I like to put a hand on my heart and one on my belly. And just start tuning into your internal world. Breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth. In through your nose, out through your mouth. One more time, in through the nose, out through the mouth. And now on the inhales, I want you to start to think about an intention, something you'd like to be filled up with, you would like to call in more of, breathing that in through the inhale. Imagining your body filling up with that sensation, and as we exhale through the mouth, really letting go anything that is not in alignment with that intention. A few just like that, in through the nose, out through the mouth, in through the nose, out through the mouth. Last one, really make it count, in through the nose, and out through the mouth, shake it out. Welcome to your bodies, welcome to Amanda Fest, and welcome to today's episode. So we took last week off, and I just want to preface by saying that showing up consistently is hard. Keeping the promises that you make to yourself is hard. Committing to something and sticking to it for over a year and beyond is hard, especially when you don't really have a lot of stability. You're traveling around nonstop. You don't have a home base. It is difficult. Is it an excuse not to do it? No, but there are moments where we need to give ourselves some grace. So last time I recorded a solo episode, I was at my parents' place in Fort Lauderdale. Now I am at a friend's house in New York City. I've been in New York City for the last couple weeks, bouncing around all different places, which we'll get into during this episode, but I procrastinated on the solo episode. I ended up taking last week off because there was just a lot of new projects and things on my plate, and I needed a moment to decompress, and I allowed myself that grace. What I needed to do today's episode, I woke up and realized that the apartment that I was staying in has some massive construction happening next door. So I texted a friend, and he came to the rescue and offered me this recording studio that we see now. So I think a part of the fun with the solo episodes as well is like, where in the world is Amanda today? Where is she recording from? Today we are reporting live from the Upper West Side in New York City. Hello, hi, we are here. So let's get into it. So a very frequently asked question that I get from my friends, from my viewers, from my listeners is, how do you decide where to go and when to go places? Pretty simple. Most of the time when I travel, I'm doing so for shows and festival and music. So it's pretty easy to know, okay, there's a show or a festival that I want to go to. I'm going to book a trip and plan something around this experience. For this year so far, just doing a little recap, I started the year off January. I was meant to spend all of January in Playa del Carmen, and I went to Tulum for a weekend, which is like 45 minutes away from Playa del Carmen, got sucked into the Tulum portal and ended up spending most of January in Tulum. So January was Tulum, Playa del Carmen. February and March I did in Miami. I was pulled to Miami for my best friend's wedding in February, and I stayed for Miami Music Week in March. And then April, I spent all of April in Mexico City because I wanted to go see the Circle shows, CERCLE, which I've talked about in previous episodes. So that was the pull there. And then I really wanted to spend some time in Mexico City, so I ended up spending a full month there. And then May was a little crazy. May started out, and it was like the ending of my time in Mexico City. So I started out in Mexico City, flew, I was on like 6 planes. May was insane. I did Mexico City, then I went back to Miami, then I went to St. Louis for my little sister's graduation, then I went back to Miami, then I went to Atlanta for a music festival, then I went straight from Atlanta to California, and I went to Lightning in a Bottle outside of LA. Then I went back to Miami, went to Mo's Music and a couple other shows down there. I was only supposed to be in Miami for about a week, and I ended up extending that trip a little bit longer because I had a really cool job opportunity. I had a meeting that was based in Fort Lauderdale, so I stayed extra for that. And then the day after that meeting, I went to the next location. So we are in the next location. Next location was New York City. I actually didn't come here for a show or a festival or anything particular. I just was feeling like the universe was calling me to New York. I can't fully explain why or what. I mean, just to give you some context and some background, I grew up in South Florida, but I grew up visiting New York all the time. New York has always been a second home to me. My brother lives in New York. My best friends live in New York. My parents have a place in New York. They don't go there all the time, but they're back and forth often. So New York has always been, between New York and Miami, it's always been one of my home bases. The last time I was here was 6 months ago. Granted, I did spend a good amount of time at the end of last year in New York City, but it was feeling like it was time. And typically when a place is calling to me so strongly, you can't ignore the nudges from the universe. You just have to lean in and say yes and okay, show me what's up. So I booked this trip to New York. A few days before, I was messaging with my friend. I had PJ on this podcast a few episodes ago. He's in the Book of Mormon on Broadway right now, and he's also created his own variety show that is the best of all talent in New York City. Drag, stand-up, comedy, Broadway, just everything compiled. What's cool about this podcast is that I have the opportunity to really build solid relationships with people through these conversations. So you guys are getting the benefit of the conversation, of the wisdom, because I'm picking really fucking cool and awesome people. But on top of that, I'm getting to deepen a relationship that maybe is fresh or new or whatever it may be. So with PJ, the context with him is that I went to his show, I think it was in December of last year, and I was absolutely blown away by it, so much so that I was like, oh my God, I have to know who put this on. I met him, connected with him very briefly, like a hi, hello, nice to meet you kind of thing. And then from there, I knew that I really wanted to have him on the podcast, so I reached back out and I invited him on the podcast. So the first real deep conversation we ever had was live with you guys right here in this format. Cut to since then, he's in New York. I've been traveling around the world. We've just stayed in touch via Instagram. We've been messaging, we've been sending memes back and forth with the knowing that in some way, shape, or form we want to collaborate, we want to work together. We just don't know how or what or where or when. And so in my coming back to New York, he was one of the first people that I was like, oh my God, I need to tell PJ I'm coming. I'd love to go see one of his shows. So I hit him up a couple of days before I came into the city and I was like, hey, I'm coming in. I'm planning on going to your show this weekend. I'm so excited to see you. And he was like, hey, our show is on hiatus right now, but what are you doing tomorrow night? This was Thursday at the time, and I was flying in on Friday. And he was like, what are you doing tomorrow night? And I was like, I don't know. He's like, yes, you do. Here are your plans. He has just purchased a few months ago a brick and mortar location. He's calling it the Clubhouse. It's this uptown loft, big studio space where he's hosting intimate events. It's his office space. This is something that he's been very excited and working on. So he sends me this invitation. It was going to be an outdoor drum circle on the water, and then afterwards a dance party at his studio space. And I was like, yes, that sounds like a perfect arrival in New York City. Sign me up, I'm in. So just laying the groundwork for my arrival to New York City. And this is amazing and also just so typical. I feel like every single time my whole life I've ever come to New York is just one of those places for me that magic, everywhere magic unfolds, but New York particularly was one of the first places that I ever experienced it to this extent, where I was just like, wow, everywhere I turn, everywhere I go, I'm running into people and incredible things are unfolding, and it's just like, ah! So this was my segue into coming into the city. So that's the backstory. So I get on the plane, I touch down. I'm trying to fall on a budget here, so I decided that instead of taking a car from the airport to the city, I was going to do public transport. I'll give you a warning. Do not do this if you have to be somewhere at a particular time. This really tests your patience and your ability to show up when things don't go right. I landed, and I think it should have taken me like 45 minutes to get from the airport to home, but it ended up taking me 3 hours because I took the wrong Airbus the wrong way like 3 different times. In the midst of me trying to figure this out, there was a man there at the airport who looked as lost as could be, who was trying to ask somebody for directions. He barely spoke any English and he was struggling, and I overheard his conversation of him talking to someone else asking where to go, and I was like, okay, we're going the same direction. I think I know where I'm going now. Let me see if I can help this guy. Don't know why. It was truly the blind leading the blind, but I decided to volunteer to adopt this man and help him get to where he needed to go. I'm using Google Translate, by the way. Like, he really speaks not very much English. I speak a little bit of Spanish. We're using his broken English, my broken Spanish, and Google Translate as the compass. And so I go over to him and I was like, hey, I think I'm going the same direction as you. You're welcome to try to figure it out with me. And he was like, yes, amazing. Long story short, he and I both took the wrong train a couple directions a few times, eventually figured out where we were going. This man was like so eternally grateful to me. It was the sweetest thing. It added some time onto my trip. It wasn't super convenient, and you gotta help your fellow humans sometimes. It really warmed my heart. He was so grateful and appreciative. This was his first time in New York City, and the fact that I get to be that memory for him of his first experience of supporting him and helping him get to where he needed to be just felt really aligned and good. And also a reminder, I know I'm talking about this now, but I think that there's something to showing up in integrity even when nobody's looking. Giving back and helping other people is so important. That was just a moment for me. It made my heart feel really, really good, and I was so grateful to get to be able to help somebody in that situation. And again, like, that immense gratitude. Like, I think I have a gratitude kink, I swear. If somebody is appreciative of me, I am willing to do just about anything. It means a lot to me when I feel appreciated. I saw this really great quote recently that said, if you see somebody's light, tell them, because it helps them to keep it on. Oftentimes we see people that shine so bright and we just assume that they know or that people are telling them all the time. But I will tell you from my own personal experience and from other friends that I know who shine extremely bright, we really appreciate being told how bright we shine, and it helps us because so many times we don't feel that way, and vice versa. Anytime I see somebody that is showing up in a way that I admire, or they are just shining so brightly, I always make sure to tell them. It's a very easy, tangible takeaway, something that any of us can do. There's certain things that are just very, very simple things that can make somebody's day that are not that hard to do, like giving somebody a compliment or telling somebody how much they mean to you. So that's on that. We get into the city. So now we're setting the scene for coming into the city. So we arrive. We have this whole experience with this man from Colombia. We help him get to his destination. We feel really good. I land. I actually had a meeting that day with my friend Nicole. So I immediately went straight to a coffee shop and hopped on Zoom. We're building a retreat together. So we got into that. And then I had enough time to go to the apartment I was staying at, put my stuff down, and then hop on a city bike and ride up to Harlem where my friend's event was. And I timed it perfectly with the sunset. If you've ever ridden a city bike in New York City, it is just one of the most liberating, magical things. And it's now my new favorite ritual. Every time I land in New York, immediately I want to get on a city bike and just feel the wind in my hair and just really being like, I'm here, I've arrived. So I'm riding up, the sun is setting, I'm turning and headed towards the water, and I just have this beautiful picturesque golden hour sunset. I get there and I see my friends. They're all out there, new friends and old, PJ and this whole new group of people, and they're playing drums and singing and dancing on the water in the sunset, and I'm just It was just one of those moments where your heart is just like, oh my God, life is so beautiful. I'm so grateful to be here in this moment, to get to have these incredible experiences, to be saying yes to these opportunities that are allowing me to lean into play and fun and adventure. Who knows what's going to unfold? This is a whole new chapter. I've arrived in a new city, one of the magical things of living this nomad life. And so I park my bike, I come up, and immediately with PJ, this is why I gave you all this context with him. I feel like over the last few years, I've really built a handful of relationships online, really built and nourished them. And it's crazy when you go from mostly building the relationship online to then getting in real life with people. It can really be a hit or miss because energy is so powerful. And I've had experiences before where I've built relationships with people online, even platonic friendships, and then gotten in their energy, been in their space, and it's just not a vibe. And then experiences like this with PJ, I kept saying it. I was like, PJ, this is our first time like IRL hanging out. And it just felt like we've known each other forever. It was really just one of those super, super special instantaneous connections. And I think with him and I, there's an extra added layer to it because we both respect and admire each other so much. We're both in this beautiful stage of life that's so abundant, and we're on the cusp of building our dreams and seeing our dreams come to fruition. It's cool to be in the energy of other builders and ambitious people who are aligned and soul connected, and it just fuels your fire, right? It's like you see other people doing it, and then when you go through your waves and you're feeling like, oh, I don't know, it's like you have somebody else who's like, keep going, I see you, like, let's go, let's do this together. It just really helps you to keep the momentum going, especially when things get hard. And so I come down. It was like the perfect night. It truly was. The drum circle was amazing. Everybody that was there was so cool and fun. I got to meet his girlfriend, Madison, and a couple of his other super close friends. And we're talking about music and dance and travel and plant medicine. And, you know, I just love when you're able to go to spaces and the conversations are just deep and meaningful and profound and beautiful and exciting and interesting, as opposed to sometimes when you go to spaces. I've been in so many rooms where I'm just like, nobody here is interesting. I never, ever, ever want to be the most interesting person in the room. I crave being around people that are smarter, more talented, more traveled. I want to be around people I can learn from. I want to be around people that inspire me. And so being in this space was so nourishing, especially as my first night in New York City. I was like, thank you, universe. Thank you, God. Thank you for bringing me here, because I feel like this is just such an omen for what's about to unfold in the next few weeks. And so we waited till the sunset. We went over to his studio space. PJ gave me a tour. So he moved in a couple months ago to this space. This is such a big deal for him. It's a massive loft space. And if you know anything about real estate in New York City, you know that's not nothing. And so seeing this space, I immediately was able to see the vision of what's to come. And I kind of fast forwarded in my head 10 years. And I was like, oh my God, this is going to be, it already is, but I could just see what is going to unfold between these four walls. And I was just feeling so much excitement and gratitude. The rest of the night was amazing. There was a bunch of artists and musicians playing in different rooms, and I ended up in this back room with PJ and a couple of his friends, and they just whipped out some guitars and drums. There was this couple that I literally was obsessed with, and they were telling stories while they were singing. So they were just talking, and then you would ask them a question and they would answer it in song and go back and forth. And it was just one of those quintessential New York City nights. I went home beaming from ear to ear. I had the best first weekend planned, to be completely honest. So the next day there was a Daybreaker event happening in Central Park, but surrounding the event it was this wellness, spirituality, almost outdoor conference, I want to say. It was this big setup in New York City, and there was all of these speakers. There was yoga, there was free food, there was talks about spirituality and astrology, and then it culminated at the end in this Daybreaker event, which I've talked about a few times here, but Daybreaker is the sober morning dance party movement. This one happened to be in the afternoon, but again, like, this is one of my favorite things of all time to do. These events don't happen all the time, but they do happen happen all around the world. And so again, for this to be my first day in the city and to get to go to one of those events, I was like, thank you, universe. I had 2 girlfriends that I had met last year at a different Daybreaker event in the city. They came for this one too, so we got to have this big reunion. I've gone to so many events at this point that I've gotten to know them. I volunteered with them before, so it was just this like big celebration, reunion, homecoming experience that just filled me with so much joy. At the end of the event, they did this closing. It was this couple. They did a kind of sound bath meditation experience. And they were like, oh, tomorrow we're doing another one of these at this big, beautiful church on the Upper East Side. And I was like, perfect. That sounds like an amazing way to end the weekend. I'll definitely do that. So the next day, I met up with my friend John, who is a real estate agent in New York City. I've also had him on the podcast. We went for this long walk in the city. There's a couple people in my life right now. They are doing really big things, but they're on the cusp of just magic and creation. And every time that I'm in their energy or we're in each other's energy, we're just like, it's very synergistic, very inspiring. And we just all really want to be together because we want to like ride that high. And so John and I went on this really long walk and we were catching up on all the things. And he was telling me about the amazing things that are coming to fruition for him in his career, in his life. And it was just such a nourishing, wholesome, beautiful day. And also I just love Central Park. Again, quintessential, perfect first weekend in New York. Couldn't have asked for better. Then I went to the sound bath afterwards in this super majestic, beautiful church on the Upper East Side. Literally felt like we were in Europe. I can't even describe to you how just amazing this scape was. Went to that, and then PJ had actually hit me up and wanted to connect after because we were still talking about potential ways to collaborate and build together. And so he had his show Book of Mormon. I went to that, and then we met up after and connected a little bit deeper. And again, same thing, being in that energy, like being with John, being with PJ, being with all of my friends that are here that are just doing cool shit. It is so inspiring. And I walk away from these connections, these experiences, these conversations, and I am on such a high of just anything is possible and we're going to take over the world. That was the close of my first weekend in the city. I walked away feeling so nourished, so inspired, and so ready to step into this New York adventure. And so that upcoming week, my parents go back and forth between Florida and New York. And so I had a couple days to myself in the city before they arrived. And then they got in about midweek. We were trying to figure out what to do. And PJ, who's in the Book of Mormon, was like, you have to come see my show. You have to come see me in Book of Mormon. And so I was like, okay. Little context on Book of Mormon and a little context on me in general, because you guys don't really know much about my New York / Broadway life before this. If you've known me pre-living in LA, you know how obsessed I've always been with New York and Broadway. If you've only known me from LA and beyond, or if you've only known me through this podcast, maybe I've literally never talked about it before, so I'll give you a little bit of context. I grew up Broadway obsessed. I grew up doing musical theater since the age of 8. I went to a musical theater summer camp my entire life. I went to Emerson in Boston where I studied acting, and I ended up concentrating in casting and talent rep, but I have a degree in acting. I have a long history and background working in Broadway, casting, talent representation. This has been my world for most of my life up until I would say the last 5 years. And so the last time I saw Book of Mormon was when I was in college, and I had a romantic connection with somebody who was in that show, and that went on and off for about 5 years. And it was one of the most, it was just a very intense connection, relationship, experience, and I've just always associated that show with him. I've not seen the show since him. I haven't felt ready. It sounds so silly, but every time I think of that show, I think of him, and it's always been a little bit of a thing for me. And so when PJ invited me to see Book of Mormon, initially my reaction was resistant, just like my initial gut reaction. I was like, I don't know if I'm ready to see that show because I'm afraid that I'm going to go see it, and the entire time I'm going to think about this guy. But it's been a long time. I really do feel like I'm over that relationship. I think it will always have a mark on me. It was something that was such a big part of my growth, and I learned so many lessons in that connection, and that was the first time I was in love, first time I had my heart broken. It was a long time ago. I could go see Book of Mormon again, right? And I've talked about this on a previous episode. I felt like this experience was a corrective experience. When you go back to the source of a wound and then you have a new experience over it that's actually positive, it's like you're correcting that negative pattern memory in your head. And so I went to the show. I did not realize how big of a role PJ had in this show, I will say, because when he was like, oh, I'm in the Book of Mormon on Broadway, and I'm doing this, and I'm doing that, blah, blah, blah. In my head, because I don't know the show very well, I just thought that he was maybe in the background or had a small role. No, this guy is one of the leads of the show, which if you know all of the things that he does outside of the show, it is beyond impressive to know that this man is performing 6 times a week, 8 times a week, I don't know. He's performing many times a week, doing this show full out, and that's like his side hustle, because during the day he's building his own business and he's doing this. So anytime that I am doubting myself or I'm tired or I think that I'm doing too much, I am always going to now compare myself to him and be like, okay, if he could do that, I could do fucking anything. So the show is amazing. He is a fucking star. Again, I am so grateful to the universe that they have brought him into my life, because he inspires me in so many ways, and I'm so just, I love being around talented, smart, ambitious people. That is one of my kinks, I swear. And he is all of those things. And when we're together, truly, like even his girlfriend saw like our energy together. We were talking about this and that, and she was like, oh my God, I'm like so excited that you guys are in each other's world now. Like, this is so cool. And I feel that way. He feels that way. It's like this very beautiful, mutual, amazing thing. So we went to the show. He took me and my parents backstage after. That was my dad's first time going backstage at a Broadway show. So it was super special. It was very cute, very wholesome. PJ and I ended up going out after that, and just every time we're together, it's like a brainstorming session. We're talking about building, and we're talking about creating, and we're talking about what's coming next, and just leave those conversations feeling inspired and excited. It was really awesome to get to see what he's doing, because he is actually leaving the Book of Mormon in September and is going all in on his business. So that's what a lot of our conversations have been about. And again, simultaneously, as I'm building my thing, being around this energy has just been really nourishing. We've been in conversations about ways in which we can work together, because in addition to what I do with my content creation and my festivals and all the things, I'm also a consultant. And I am currently working with the founder of Orange Theory in building out her personal brand and creating her legacy. And I feel very called to support and be a part of what PJ is creating as well. So a lot of our conversations have been about how can I best support him, and how can we work together, and how can this be one of the things that I am creating and building and working towards in the grand scheme of all the things that I'm creating and building and working towards. And so we'll loop back to that in a moment. But we'll move on sequentially in terms of like how the weeks unfolded and where we're going. So the next like major event that I went to, which is so funny, I'm like, I've been in New York for 2 weeks, and I'm like, and this big thing happened, and that big thing happened, and I did this party and that party. But you guys have been following the journey. You know that this is just the way life goes for me. And so the next one was Daybreaker and Othership. I'm going to get one of the Daybreaker people on the podcast soon, I swear. But Othership, I had Robbie on the podcast, so you guys know a little bit about that. But Othership is this sauna, cold plunge, social wellness space. It's originally based in Toronto. They have a location in New York City. I am madly and deeply obsessed with it. They have been throwing this series in connection with Daybreaker, which is the morning rave dance party, and they've been doing these events called Heat Wave, which is a sauna rave. They've done a few of these already, and they've been going viral on Instagram and TikTok, and I'm obsessed with both of these companies. I was like, I absolutely have to go. So of course, the minute they dropped tickets for this, which was months ago, and I knew I was going to be in New York, I bought a ticket. I was like, 100%, I have to go. I have to be there. And so I went to that. I actually had purchased a ticket, but then I ended up volunteering, and my volunteer job was to stand at the door and hug everybody as they came in. I got to connect with every single person as they entered into the space. So this is crazy. So I get there, and I'm standing at the door, and this man comes up to me while I'm at the door, and he was like, hey, I have 2 friends that are running late. Their names are like Brittany and Mashi. I don't know what the other person's name was, but whatever. He makes these two names and then he goes, and Mashi. And immediately I was like, Mashi who? And he goes, Mashi Cohen. And I was like, oh my fucking God. So context on Mashi. Mashi and I met in LA years ago. Very good friend of mine. She's super cool. She started this thing called Liberate Yoga, where she does this rap yoga on a rooftop in Malibu. This is how I first met her. I was like, this girl is so fucking cool. And her and I have built a relationship, been friends for a while, but obviously since I left LA, it's hard to stay fully in touch with people, especially people that you're not super, super close with, that are more on the, yeah, we're friends when you see each other. But it's like, it's difficult when you're traveling around. You can't stay super in touch with every single person. And so I hadn't seen her in 2 years. I may have talked about it in a different episode, but the last time that I saw her was I went to a Daybreaker event in Miami like 2 months ago, and I was dancing up on the stage, and someone pointed at me, and it was Mashi, and she had just arrived in Miami, and like we reunited on the dance floor and had this beautiful magical moment, and that was my first time seeing her in 2 years. And now cut to, I'm in New York City. Granted, I'm at another Daybreaker event, so it's not that crazy, but still, we're both had met in LA. Last time we saw each other was in Miami, and now New York City. So he's like, yeah, Mashi Cohen. And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe Mashi's coming. And he's like, yeah, she's literally arriving today and coming straight here, which is the same thing that she did for the Miami one, which is a woman of my own heart, let me tell you, because hello, if you've heard these stories, you know that that is par for the course. So after I greeted everyone, went in, I also found out that Coco and Breezy were DJing this one. I had just seen them at Lightning in a Bottle. All of it was just super aligned and exciting, and I just love Othership, and I love Daybreaker. I mean, there was horns and piano and DJs and saunas and cold plunges, literally all of my favorite things in one space. Couldn't have asked for a better experience. And so I ended up connecting with the guy that was waiting for Mashi, because I was like, oh my God, we have a mutual friend. So we're chatting. I find out that he's super involved with Daybreaker. He owns a travel company, and he has taken Daybreaker all around the world and done parties. And I'm like, okay, again, if you know what I'm building and what I'm working towards, you know that this is like so aligned with everything that I'm building and doing. And so meeting people again that are right on the same path, that are doing the same things, I'm just like, yes, 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 yes. So he and I hang out, we have a great time, we're dancing. Mashi ends up coming, we have this beautiful reunion, and PJ was actually throwing a secret warehouse party that night, like later on, artists only, password, you know, the whole thing. And so I end up inviting Mashi and this other friend. This is a Thursday night, mind you. So we go to the Sauna Rave, starts at 9 o'clock, goes until midnight. Then at like 1 a.m., we go all the way up to Harlem. This is Mashi's first time partying in New York City. We go there, it was like all Broadway people, performers, singers. I think we were out until like, I think I went to bed at like 5 in the morning. So I ended up after the party at like 4 a.m. going back to my parents' house, grabbing a change of clothes, grabbing my laptop, and then I ended up staying with Mashi and her friend at some random person's apartment who's somebody that travels all the time and has an empty apartment in Midtown. It was just one of those quintessential New York City nights rolled into the next day, rolled into the adventure of possibility of what could happen, what's next. I cut to that next weekend. It was Pride. I went to a Pride party in Brooklyn. I totally manifested a ticket because tickets were completely sold out, and a friend of mine unfortunately was sick, and right when I was looking at tickets, she was like, hey, do you want to go to this thing? And I was like, yeah, that'd be great. So in the midst of all this as well, before Pride, my friend Sarah, who just bought a duplex in Brooklyn, she has the account Our Home in Brooklyn. We will have her on the podcast soon. I have still never seen her place since she moved in right after her wedding. This was the wedding that I went to in Miami in February. And so my mom and her and I were planning this really wholesome girls' night. We were going to go over to her house. We were going to order in dinner, watch a movie. And so we ended up doing that. I got to see her place. Again, same thing. Being in the energy of somebody who's building and creating and doing is just so inspiring and excited. And Sarah has always been somebody that I've looked up to my whole life. So getting to see her dream home that she's living in with her husband and just all the things that she's creating. She recently started her own social media account where she's doing content around the curation of her home, and I've been supporting her with that. And then to get to be in the actual space for the very first time was so special. We had this beautiful wholesome night. And then, yeah, the next day I went to this Pride event, which was okay, not amazing, but it was good. It's interesting. I feel like a lot has happened in the last 2 weeks or 3 weeks, and then also not a lot has happened. I've been going to events, I've been connecting with friends, I've been having these amazing experiences, but I'm so deeply in it that I haven't really had enough space to zoom out and really observe like what the fuck is going on. So I'm gonna breeze through really quick, just like sequentially, logistically what went down, and then I have a couple of just takeaways of lessons learned in the last few weeks, and then I will let you guys know what is upcoming. I have some really awesome trips and things that are brewing. After the Pride event that next week, I ended up having an official sit down with PJ because I felt like we were teasing it. We had 3 unofficial meetings, and I was like, all right, I need to sit down, I need a laptop, and I need to go through what the fuck is happening here. And so we did a 3-hour deep dive last week. We're still synthesizing and figuring out what the best way in which we will work together will be. But there is definitely a manifest collaboration happening with Stage Time. We are just locking down the details of exactly what that looks like and how I can best support while staying true to my own mission and values. I would basically have 3 major clients. It would be myself, the Amanda Fest brand, and all the things that I'm building with that. Right now I'm working with the founder of Orange Theory, and I would love to take on PJ as a client. So it would be 3 massive clients. Very time consuming, a little overwhelming, but I found this quote recently that I loved where it says, what a privilege to be overwhelmed doing what I love. And I feel that to my fucking bones because I've been with this new gig and with this new job and being in New York. And since I've been in New York, I've literally been in my parents' place. I stayed at my friend's place for a week. I went down to LBI to stay with Sarah's husband's family for 4th of July weekend, and then back to my parents. So like I've been in like all over the fucking place logistically, just where I've been staying, moving my stuff around constantly. This has only been the last 2.5 weeks. And then on top of that, I'm working full time. I'm working for Ellen. I'm building my own stuff. I have a lot brewing and coming up next month with Amanda Fest things, and then now taking on another client. Super exciting and exhilarating, and also a little bit overwhelming, and just needing to navigate and figure out, how do I balance all this? How do I stay in routine? How do I stay motivated and consistent and show up every day? So this has been some struggles that I've been navigating and figuring out, and this is the real-time vision of building the dream. So we had this amazing brainstorming session. Moving on sequentially, it was my best friend's mom's birthday on the 4th of July. So on the 3rd of July, we had this really sweet day where it was my mom, me, her mom, her, and her aunt, and her cousin, and we did a girls' day. We got our nails done, which was amazing because I really needed to do that, and ended up just having some really sweet, wholesome family time. This is family friends of mine that I have, been close to since childhood, and so getting to spend an entire day together and be with our parents and order in food and just hang on the couch and connect. As I've been traveling around the world, I feel like I've been missing out on a lot of really simple pleasures, like being close to my friends and my family and connecting in these super simple, sweet ways, like at my friend's place, with me, her, and my mom, like having a movie night, ordering in. It's these very simple pleasures that you're able to really, really appreciate more when they come few and far between. And so I really was so grateful for that. And then 4th of July weekend, I was invited to stay out with with Sarah's husband's parents have a beach house on LBI, and so I spent the 4th of July weekend with them, and they have this big, massive family with tons of little kids. And again, I don't think you guys know, I love children. I've always loved children. TBD on if I'm going to have children, but I am like the child whisperer, and so I had the best time connecting with these kids and playing, and again, just the simple pleasures. We did nothing. We went to the beach, we cooked food, we hung out on the couch, we played games. Like, it was just this really sweet, wholesome experience that I'm so grateful I got to have. How special. This is my best friend. She grew up as an only child, and now she's a part of this big, massive family. And, I got to meet his family at the wedding in February, but to get to really spend time with his whole family, which is now my best friend's new family, there was something so sweet and wonderful about it. And I came back to the city and my mom and my brother and his girlfriend were having dinner with other family friends. And so like in the last few weeks, like really getting to spend some quality time with very close people in my life, people I've known my whole life, my best friends, my family, my brother, like just so wonderful. The only person we've been missing is my sister, who's in Florida right now studying for the bar. She is going to take it later this month. So wishing her the best of luck, but I've definitely been missing her. But yeah, really just leaning into connection and relationship and nourishing these relationships. People ask me all the time about how I'm able to nourish relationships while I'm traveling, and it's been hard. It's really hard when you're not seeing people every day, when you can't just go over and grab coffee, when you can't just sit on their couch and do nothing. It's difficult to maintain relationships, but I think the secret is building relationships that are so strong that you don't need to constantly water them every single day. They are going to thrive and grow regardless, and whenever you are back, it's like the soil is so rich that these plants are able to just live. And I don't know if that's how plants work because I'm not a plant person, but that's my philosophy and theory on it. And I've just been feeling so nourished and grateful to be here and be able to connect and be in this moment of time. So in the midst of all of that, right, we're going to these events, we're connecting with family, we're doing all these things. I have been working with Ellen. I'm a few weeks into my gig with her, and it's been going extremely well. I have been brought on as the head of brand and communications, and so I am working on building out her social media strategy team. We're also working on her speaker events. She has a talk that I'm going to get to go to with her in Boston in a couple weeks, where I've just hired a videographer to capture the whole thing. So this is cool because I'm able to utilize all my skills that I worked with in Hollywood and nourish relationships from that part of my job. And also this gig is one, like, I'm very excited about it. I really believe in who she is. She also has been on my podcast recently, if you want to watch the episode on Ellen Latham. But this woman is so inspiring and incredible, and to get to support her and help her get to that next level of her career and to support her in building out her personal brand just feels so aligned and exciting. And so that has been awesome. In the midst of that, I've been doing a ton on the Amanda Fest side. I'm doing a festival collaboration with Deep Tropics next month. I am officially going to Deep Tropics. I am doing the Amanda Fest pregame meditation for 2 days of the festival. And then I am meeting with the social media team later this week to talk about what our social strategy is going to be, because very likely I will be doing some takeovers on their accounts, talking about intentional partying. But I have a meeting with that whole team on Friday, but that is locked and loaded and officially happening. In terms of other travel, I am going, this is crazy, but next month before Deep Tropics, I'm flying to Denver and I am going to see Rufus Du Sol. I have floor tickets to see Rufus Du Sol. And the way that unfolded was I matched with this guy on Hinge when I was in Mexico City to see Circle. And by the time he and I matched, he was already in another country, which par for the course. If you're a nomad, that's just totally how it goes. But we were talking about music. He had mentioned Rufus in his bio. And so we started talking about this, and he mentioned that he had a ticket in August. And I immediately was like, because I actually had a ticket to see Rufus Du Sol in LA. I was supposed to go with my friends Clarissa and Emily, but it overlaps with Deep Tropics. So I actually have to sell my ticket, and I knew I was going to have to sell my ticket. And so I was looking for another location to go to this show. They are coming to New York later this week, but tickets for the floor are like $600. And I was like, dude, first of all, I love Denver. And second of all, I was like, it would be cheaper for me to fly all the way to Denver, stay somewhere, and go to the show than it would be for me to just get the same ticket here in New York. So I'm flying to Denver. I'm very curious to see how that all unfolds. I love Denver. I love Boulder. They have amazing sober dance parties there. So I'm excited to tap back into that community there. But yeah, I'm excited to go on this first date to go see Rufus Du Sol in Denver. And then straight from Denver, I'm going to Nashville. And then after Nashville, I am going to ARC in Chicago. That is an EDM festival out there, because my baby sister is moving to Chicago officially, because that is where she has received a offer for a law firm out there. And I've never been to Chicago before. So August is going to be a little insane, so I'm just really leaning into July in New York City and trying to nourish as many relationships as humanly possible, go to as many shows as humanly possible, really just see what magic wants to unfold and just be here now. That is my goal and intention for this moment. But lots of exciting things coming up that I am just thrilled about. Next week, I am dropping my episode. I did a podcast with one of the founders of Deep Tropics Music Festival, which is the festival that I'm going to be working at in August. So definitely stay tuned for that. That will drop next week. And stay tuned for all the crazy adventures. If you don't already follow me on Instagram, definitely do that at Amanda Laurena, Laurena. I will be sharing and posting all of the madness as things unfold. If you guys haven't already done so, be sure to like, subscribe, rate this podcast, message me, let me know what resonates with you, and I will catch you on the next one. Mwah. Talk to you soon.